Seats.
Good evening and welcome to the December 6, 2023 meeting of the Lower Merion Board of Commissioners. We have 4 committee meetings tonight. We have a Public Works meeting, a Finance Committee meeting, a Police Committee meeting, and a Building and Planning Committee meeting. But before we get started, there are 2 things I want to speak about tonight. The first is, as you may know, there has been a spate of burglaries, primarily in the western portion of our township. This crime trend is affecting our region and beyond. Highly organized burglary rings targeting jewelry, electronics, and cash are suspected to be responsible. They do not want to confront homeowners, so they target unoccupied homes, generally in the early evening hours. In response, the Lower Merion Police Department has been actively investigating. They have increased patrols, are working with local, state, and federal partners to share criminal intelligence and identify potential suspects, and are utilizing all technical and forensic tools at their disposal. Here are some things you can do. Be vigilant and careful. If you expect to be away from your home for more than 48 hours, you can take advantage of the Lower Merion Police Department's vacant house program by calling 610-649-1000 or going to the website. A patrol officer will be assigned to conduct periodic security inspections of your home while you are away. If you see something, say something. Watch out for your neighbors in your neighborhood. If something looks suspicious, call 911. It's okay. Keep doors and windows locked when not using them, and keep garage doors closed. Keep your interior lights on timers and the exterior of your home well lit. If you have an alarm, please arm it when you are away or arm the perimeter when inside for a period with no intention of leaving. Consider adding window sensors to second-story windows or any points of entry that overlook a first-story roof line. If you have security cameras, make sure they're charged and in working order. And do not leave ladders around which can give access to second-floor exterior entry points. 2 more things. If you sign up for the Blackboard Connect on the township's website, that allows the police to reach you quickly if they have an urgent crime alert to provide. And if you would like a security survey of your home or more information on neighborhood security programs, please contact LMPD's Crime Prevention Unit at 610-645-6240. The township will continue to keep you updated. Separately, there has been a rise in anti-Semitic acts in the Philadelphia area, including a handful of acts of vandalism in Lower Merion. Anti-Semitism is abhorrent and has no place in Lower Merion. The township has moved swiftly to erase any vandalism, and LMPD is actively investigating every occurrence and has made several arrests. Let me reiterate something that we said in this forum just a few weeks ago. Lower Merion Township will not stand for hatred of any kind and will do everything in our power to protect and support all our residents. We will continue to promote the values of acceptance, kindness, and constructive dialogue, and graffiti is neither constructive nor dialogue. And while anti-Semitism may be the most pressing issue at the moment, we assure you that we will stand in defense of any targeted group. With that, we're going to turn to the first committee meeting of the evening. That's a Public Works Committee. I recognize its chair, Commissioner McKeon.
Thank you, President Sandra. There's just one agenda item on the Public Works Committee tonight. It's agenda item 1. It's a resolution for the township to burn down the Oakwell property and flood it to install a boathouse and a floating gun store. No, you know, I'm sorry, this is... the official sewage facilities plan to update the revision at the Glen Road Pump Station. And to get things started, I will move to consider for recommendation to the Board of Commissioners adoption of a resolution revising the official sewage facilities plan by accepting the Act 537 plan update revision special study for the Glen Road Pump Station drainage several area, which was prepared in accordance with Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection requirements to expand the capacity of the Glen Road Pump Station to accommodate the increase in sewage flow estimated for the redevelopment of the property located at 111 Presidential Boulevard, plus other future needs, and authorizing the submission of the revised official sewage facilities plan to the Department of Environmental Protection for approval. And a second, thank you, Commissioner McComb. And with that, I will turn it over to our Public Works Director, Paul McElhenney, for a brief presentation.
Just briefly, as the Commissioner has indicated, this is an upgrade to the Glen Road pumping station. This was in our out-year CIP. We had plans to upgrade this station, as we're doing with many of the other stations, and working our way through with the development being brought forward. We took the opportunity to partner with that developer and have them pay for costs that would be associated with their flow. An opportunity to capture their cost along with our normal stationing improvements. So, we normally would be replacing the interior piping. We'd be putting in a bypass system, something that makes it for our convenience of maintenance. We'd be replacing our pumps and our grinder, but knowing that this project is in development, coming online, we're looking at the increase that they're going to have on that system, and we're basically assessing them and asking them to pay for that part of it. So.
Right, because it's noted that 111 Presidential is going to have 426 residential units, and this plan was already in our CIP before 111 Presidential
Correct.
came along, and we're expanding it, and the additional cost is what the developer is covering, and that's the cost associated with the 426 units, right?
Correct. As I noted, we had this planned. It's one of our improvements that had planned. We're just taking the opportunity because now we know this is coming, so our planning included that. And so we're able to size and capture cost.
Right, so when someone says, well, why is the township funding a developer? We're not. All right.
We are not. What we are doing is we are funding what we normally would do, and that the difference, the increase, we're asking them to pay for that.
Okay, thank you. Any Commissioner questions or comments? Okay, any public comment in the room? And I know, Jody, any public comment online?
No.
Okay. We did get one public comment from Michael Pollack, and he indicated that he wrote an objection to the item. He was not pleased with the excessive development in the township, and also that the developers of 111 Presidential Boulevard, he thought, should be paying for the expansion as it takes place for their development. And as Director McElhenney just said, that's indeed what is actually happening here. The developer is paying its fair proportionate share. All right, so with that, I'll call it to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And any opposed? Okay, Madam Secretary, that passes unanimously, and that closes.
Commissioner McKeon, before, if I may indulge the board, just so that you are aware, the Public Works Department now has a new assistant director. Before Commissioner Gavin can say anything, yes, now we have somebody competent down in the department. So the gentleman's name is Jesse Hunting. He joined us on Monday. He was not able to join us this evening, but look forward to introducing him to all of you, and you'll find that he's very capable and will be a great asset to the department. And Commissioner Gavin, yes, now we have a responsible adult down there.
Thank you, and I'll note too, unfortunately, we had to cancel the Public Works Holiday Dance Party for, I think, the 4th year in a row, but we'll, maybe next year we'll be able to keep it going. So, okay. Thank you. That now concludes the business of the Public Works Committee. President Sandra.
Thank you, Commissioner McKeon. Our next committee is the Finance Committee. I recognize its Vice Chair, Commissioner Whalen.
Thank you very much, President Sinai. I'm a little thrown off. I'm still picturing the dance party in my head for the Public Works Department.
You and us both.
Try to get us back on track. We have one agenda item on for tonight in the Finance Committee, and it is with the award of a contract with regard to the East Levering Mill Road improvements. To get started, I will just make a motion to approve an award, excuse me, approve the award of a contract for East Levering Mill Road improvements to the following bidder in accordance with bids received on Tuesday, November 21st, 2023 at 11 a.m. Prevailing time and the recommendation of the Chief Financial Officer with the approval of the Director of Public Works and the Township Engineer. That would be for LB Construction Enterprises, Inc., a total lump sum bid of $473,554, with a total contingency item of amount of $35,750 for a total maximum bid of $509,000 and $304. And I will call on Mr. McElhenney again.
Do you want a second?
Sure. I'll call on Sean Kramer for a second.
Thank you. Good evening, Board, again. I'll do a little dance party for the Finance Committee in Eric's absence. This is a project that we've been working diligently with Commissioner McComb and Commissioner Kramer and in Commissioner McKeon in that area, and originally with Commissioner Manos and so forth, to provide a walkable sidewalk from Conshohocken State Road to Belmont Avenue. So we've worked through several designs. We didn't make everybody 100% happy. We did our best to get everybody satisfied and provide the service that was needed. We received 7 bids on this project. The low bidder is a known vendor to us. They've worked on numerous projects with us here in the township. If you'd like more information, it's within the engineer's report. The bid's approximately 50% below budgeted amount. This project is being funded through the capital improvement budget, but also there are dedicated ARP funds included with this project. Myself, the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Traub, and the Township Engineer all recommend moving forward with this project.
Thank you very much, Mr. McElhenney. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner McComb.
Thank you, Mr. Will. Paul, I want to thank you and your staff. I want to thank Joe and his staff. This has been a long process, but you've done a terrific job. Lots of participation by the residents, and I think we're coming up with something that's a terrific project and under budget, so that's great. I'd also like to recognize former Commissioner Brian McGuire, who's in the audience, and I think when Brian stepped down 4 years ago next month, he would think that this would have moved along a little faster than it did, but Brian also was instrumental attending various meetings with residents and helping to keep this going forward. So it's a great project. I would urge all of you to support it. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burnham, did you have
No, I was just going to also make note that our former Vice President of our board is here, Brian McGuire, but Commissioner McComb's already taken care of that. Brian, you can go. Thank you very much.
All right. Any other commissioner comments or questions? Seeing none. Any public comment in the room? Seeing none. Do we have anyone online? All right. Seeing none. I will call it for a vote. All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. That passes unanimously. And President Sinai, that concludes the business of the Finance Committee.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Whalen. So our next committee is the Police Committee, and I recognize its Chair, Commissioner McComb.
Thank you, President Sinai. We have 2 agenda items tonight. One is an authorization for an ordinance for parking. The other is to issue conditional offers of employment. But before I get there, I do want to make one quick announcement. I want to congratulate Detective Andrew Rook, who is being honored next Thursday by a professional law enforcement organization for his work in dismantling a drug ring that was responsible for importing hundreds of pounds of fentanyl and methamphetamine into the Philadelphia area from Los Angeles. Detective Rook went undercover, pretty much initiated the investigation, so we all know how bad fentanyl and methamphetamine is. So this is great. This is typical of the excellent work that the police department does, so I commend Detective Rook and the department. So with that, we'll hear from our Director of Parking Services, Jerry Adams.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is an item that you have in your packet. It is located at Bryn Mawr Avenue at Derwen Road. Commissioner Kramer brought this to our attention and requested that we review it for moving back the no parking here to corner signs. This location does not have a 4-way stop sign. It is a 2-way stop sign at Derwen Road. Bryn Mawr traffic continues to move. And we thought it was wise, Commissioner Kramer requested us to review this. and in agreement with her, we recommend to everyone moving the no parking here to corner signs to the location shown on the diagram. The kids who go to Balkenwood Elementary and Middle School are obviously not very tall at this point in their lives, and their head height is below most SUVs. So giving a greater sight distance to the vehicles, as well as a better chance for the kids to see oncoming cars at this intersection, is why we are recommending this.
Any commissioner comments or questions about this? Commissioner Kramer?
Yes, I have been asked by residents to have this, the sightlines increased there, partly for the children and also because there have been a number of near accidents at that corner, because when cars are parked too close to Derwen Road, the cars have to pull way out into Bryn Mawr in order to see whether or not anybody is coming. And I've had, many complaints about this issue, and I think that this is going to increase safety in the neighborhood.
Thank you, Commissioner Kramer. I agree. I think these sightline issues are very, very important, and they make a huge difference. People are pulling out. It really, if you don't have a sightline, you're really taking your life in your hands as you pull out. So it's dangerous for drivers, and particularly for school children. So I would ask that we would support it. So I will put this in a motion. We consider for recommendation, Board of Commissioners authorizing Township Secretary to advertise notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to amend the Code of Township of Lower Merion, Chapter 145 thereof, entitled Vehicles and Traffic, Article 15, Schedules 145-115, Schedule 15, Parking Prohibited at all times, by prohibiting parking on Bryn Mawr Avenue as follows: on the west side for 65 feet north and 64 feet south of Derwen Road, on the east side for 25 feet south of Derwen Road, on the west side 66 feet north of Montgomery Avenue, on the east side 72 feet north of Montgomery Avenue. Could I have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Kramer. Any further comments or questions by the commissioners? Mr. Kramer?
Included in this motion is is another location, which is right near Montgomery, where cars try to turn onto Bryn Mawr Avenue or try to turn out of Bryn Mawr Avenue. And I've had comparable complaints there that it's difficult to get in and out because of cars that are parked there, and that it can cause accidents because people can't see the cars because they're parked cars.
Correct. As a follow-up, anyone who has traveled the 300 block of Bryn Mawr Avenue from Bala Avenue up to Montgomery Avenue, there are a line of cars always parked on the right-hand side, which restricts the car traveling southbound towards Montgomery Avenue from getting over to really open up the left side or the northbound lane. So it was wise to move that sign back. And if you're also traveling westbound on Montgomery Avenue and need to make a right onto northbound Bryn Mawr Avenue, with those extra cars piling up potentially where it is now allowed or legal to park, it is very hard to make that turn all the way. If two cars back-to-back tried to make that turn, the rear end of one of the cars could potentially be left on Montgomery Avenue. So that's why we proposed this change in addition with Commissioner Kramer's recommendation.
Thank you, Director Adams. As a result of Director Adams' comments, are there any questions as to that location, Bryn Mawr and Montgomery Avenue, by the board? Any public comment? Anybody in the room has any comment on either of these proposed changes? Sure. Why don't you come to the podium and you can, again, we at public comment, we typically respond at the end of all public comment questions, but go ahead. Just come on up, identify yourself and where you live in the township, and go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Molly Wallace. I live on the corner of Derwen and Bryn Mawr Avenue, and I unfortunately witness near accidents on a regular basis at this intersection, so I'm so grateful that this is being addressed. One question that I have is enforcement, because I think the line of sight is a huge problem. As an adult who is potentially taller than some of those children and having knowledge of the danger, I have to walk practically into the middle of the road and have almost been hit knowing that this is a problem. And so I have really significant concern about this with the children crossing, being only 1 block away from the school. So how will this be enforced? Moving the sign, it sounds like a great idea because the line of sight would be improved. However, there's already such a limited amount of parking at the worst times when the children are being let out and the parents are picking up their children. I've taken pictures where parents are just, disregarding the signage as it currently is. I can only imagine that they're going to continue to do so. So I have a concern about that, and I guess, if I may, just ask if there's ever been a consideration of whether or not we would put in a 4-way stop sign at that location, being that it's 1 block away from the school. And Derwen and Bryn Mawr, Derwen is the only street that I'm aware of from Levering Mill all the way down to Ballackinwood that cuts through. Every other one is just, it doesn't go all the way through. So you literally, the cars have to go practically into the middle of the street because of the hill. It's really the line of sight location. Changing the signage could help, but you really still have to go so far into the middle of Bryn Mawr Avenue in order to see because of the hill. And so I just ask if it's ever been considered to actually make that a 4-way stop sign, because coming up towards the school, you can see that there's a stop sign in the distance, but there's no indication that that Derwen goes all the way through and that there's a street at that location. And so cars just fly up at that location where it's most difficult to actually see and where the children are most often crossing. So I really appreciate that this is being brought, to light and potentially being improved. I'm still concerned that there's going to be a serious problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Adams, do you have any
Yeah,
response? There were a couple of questions. One would
Yes.
be enforcement, how are we going to do that?
Yep.
And also sort of
Enforcement,
possible
anytime-
a four-way stop.
Anytime you see someone parked within that span that is designated no parking here to corner, the reason this is a real positive is it is codified. It will be codified, it will be in our code, so the police department and parking services both will be eligible to enforce that. I would say contact parking services first. Our direct dial is available on the website, so you call us and let us know someone is there. We have an attendant typically in Ballackinwood every day. They would be able to swing over there and enforce that for you. If we're not available, we would have a police officer do it. As far as the 4-way stop sign, I might be mistaken. I spoke with traffic safety about the location for this specific discussion. They don't have a large number of actual incidents that have occurred here, so I'm not sure if traffic safety had ever reviewed it for a 4-way stop sign. My feeling would be is if traffic safety did, it would not meet the criteria because of the few accidents that have actually occurred. Knock on wood, because viewing the site myself, out there measuring things, became very aware that the increase in distance is needed. And I also feel that traffic safety may have reviewed its proximity to East Levering Mill during school traffic moving about, and having a 4-way stop sign may have caused large problems at East Levering Mill Road and Bryn Mawr Avenue if this were a 4-way stop sign. I apologize if I am misspeaking, but traffic safety would be the best person who could answer why that is not a 4-way stop sign.
And just to follow up with that, as Director Adams pointed out, there is a process in place, and it almost always originates with the traffic safety unit in some sort of study. But if you want, you can follow up with me or with Director Adams, so we can sort of take a further look at that, because I think those are legitimate concerns. We're not going to prejudge the issue, but it typically depends on things like how many accidents or near accidents and so forth as to whether it's appropriate to do that sort of enforcement measure.
If I might add, I did bring this issue to traffic safety, and at this point, they have not recommended a 4-way stop sign there. And I think that this increasing the sight lines with aggressive enforcement that we're going to need there may help with the problem. And if we continue to have a problem, we can reopen the question of stop signs.
Any further commissioner comments or questions? Vice President Gabbard?
I do have a question. So we're moving, and it's not where I typically am in the township, though I have been to a bunch of youth basketball, events down there, and it gets very crowded. with moving it back, how many parking spots are you losing there?
Based on what a legal parking space is, about 1.5
Okay, on each?
at each location.
Okay.
Including Bryn Mawr and Montgomery.
So, and I think the resident brought up a really interesting point of you're not going to have fewer people going to the school and fewer events at the school. The question is what's going to happen as a result, right? Are we at risk of unintended consequences of pushing problems further back, or people saying, well, I can't park anywhere, I'm going to stop in the middle of the road to get my kid out? I don't know if we've had an experience where we've made changes like this and seen what the outcome is?
In this specific location, Commissioner Gavin, it's a long straightaway between crossings. So the next crossing would be Penarth/Lodges Lane, and that is a stop sign intersection. So as long as the kids aren't crossing mid-span, this will provide a very safe situation, a much safer situation, because usually the kids are going to cross at the street crossings. So Derwen Road will now have a wider span. Now, as far as parking goes, usually the residents in that area all have driveways. And in the 5 or 6 times I've been down there looking at it, once measuring, once confirming measurements, have all been during the school days. There are not very often cars parked in that area where we are moving the signs back to. On the one side, there typically will be, but that side is the most important to open up the sight lines. And that person can easily move past the stop sign at Derwen Road and park on that straightaway stretch beyond Derwen without having to walk more than an extra 20 steps.
Okay, great. I mean, yeah, if it's improving safety, I think one thing, and it's not about this specifically, but in general, when we make changes, thinking about what are the unintended consequences of doing that. But I'm glad to hear.
That westbound side between East Levering Mill and Derwen is probably the most dangerous side.
Gotcha.
So I think even though it may inconvenience someone who is comfortable parking there daily, it's nothing more than an inconvenience.
Gotcha. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President. Jody, do we have anybody online with public comment? Okay, since nobody else is online, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand signifying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Madam Secretary, that passed unanimously. Thank you, Commissioner McGuire.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Yeah. Our next item on the police committee agenda is an authorization to issue conditional offers of employment for open police positions. Do we have a presentation from the police department, or is that something, or any?
I can speak to it,
Okay.
Commissioner. These would be an authorization to extend conditional offers of employment to 2 candidates who have gone successfully all the way through the civil service testing process. These, unfortunately, are the only 2 we are actually going to yield from the May civil service exam. We had 126 applicants sign up for the test. Only 58 showed up on the day of the test. We lost 17 more to the agility portion of the test. We ended up with 20 candidates going to backgrounds. 1 failed to submit paperwork. 1 washed out on polygraph. And by the time we get to the Civil Service Commission certifying candidates, we are down to only yielding 2 from this civil service exam that was conducted in May. As you know, we've just conducted another civil service exam to hire police officers since we are currently down 12 officers. That test was just given here in November, and once again, we had 112 applicants. We actually had 66 show up the day of the test and take the test. So, again, we're hopeful that we'll yield more out of this current test process, which is ongoing. But this would authorize the conditional letters of employment to 2 candidates.
Okay, thank you. It's always alarming that, we're down 16 and we're making a concerted effort. I know that we have spoken of the issue numerous times in this room, and I know that the department is doing all that it can, but again, it seems like we're treading water or losing officers at a faster rate than we're replacing. So we'll only be replacing 2 of the 12 vacancies, and then there are, I would think that there are people slated for retirement, and then we continue to be poached by other law enforcement agencies like the FBI and the DEA. So, again, just to express on behalf of the police committee, and I think the rest of the board are interested in having the department continue to do everything conceivably possible to get our authorized strength, get our strength back up to where it's authorized. And
That's why we're now testing twice a year, Commissioner. It used to be we tested once every 2 years.
Yeah. Any commissioner comments or questions for the manager? Any public comment? Anybody online, Jody? No. I would move that we consider for recommendation of the Board of Commissioners authorizing the Township Manager to make conditional offers of employment to 2 police applicants who have fulfilled the civil service requirements for eligibility. Have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Bernheim. I'll call the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand signifying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Madam Secretary, that passes unanimously. And President Sandra, that concludes the work of the Police Committee.
Thank you very much, Commissioner McComb. Our final committee for the evening is Building and Planning, and I recognize its chair, Commissioner Grimes.
Thank you, President Sinai. So we have 9 items on the agenda for tonight. Let me say first, number 5, the preliminary subdivision plan for 37 Simpson Road in Ardmore has been tabled. So if anyone is here tonight for that matter, that will not be heard tonight, and it will be heard at a future meeting, which will be announced. That being said, the first item on the agenda is a public hearing and adoption of resolution authorizing an intermunicipal liquor license transfer to Señoritas Mexican Taqueria in 61 West Lancaster Avenue. In more plain English, this is to move an application to move a liquor license from outside of the township inside of the town to the township for a restaurant. There are 2 parts of this. The first, we're going to have a public hearing, which we're required to do for this transfer, and then after the public hearing, there will be the committee consideration of the matter. So the first thing I'm going to do is to open the public hearing and ask Assistant Township Manager Ford, who's already up at the podium, to give us a brief explanation.
Thank you, Commissioner Grimes, and good evening, Commissioners. So we did receive a request from Señoritas Mexican Taqueria, which currently operates in Haverford Township. They are currently in the process of relocating to the former site of El Limon at 61 West Lancaster Ave. And as part of their move to Lower Merion Township, they would like to transfer their currently possessed liquor license, which is a Category G or brewery license from the U.S. Liquor Control Board, into Lower Merion Township. As part of the PA Liquor Control Code, any such transfers across municipal boundaries requires such a public hearing can be conducted by the board, and that the board render approval for the transfer of the liquor license into the township, because the State Liquor Control Board does control how many liquor licenses are in each jurisdiction within a certain amount. And just for the board's information, currently there are 3 other active G brewery licenses in the township, 1 brew pub license in the township, and 41 restaurant liquor licenses in the township. So if this license is transferred, this would add to the G category, which is brewery, and the fine distinction between a brewery license and a restaurant license is that those with brewery license are not only allowed to sell brewed and malt beverages for on-site consumption, but they are also allowed to sell for off-site consumption as well. So, if approved, someone would go to Señoritas and they would be able to carry something out with them, closed container, of course, for consumption in another location. So that's kind of the gist of the difference between an R, which is a restaurant license, and a G brewery license, for which Señoritas is asking for the board's approval on to transfer into Lower Merion Township from Haverford.
Okay, thank you. And just for everyone's explanation, we're defer commissioner comments and questions till after the public hearing portion. So we now call for public comment. Does anyone have any public comment about this matter? I see none here. Is there anyone online?
There are actually no attendees online other than the people you see.
Always sorry to hear that. With that and public comment, there being no public comment, I'm now going to close the public hearing. We will now open the matter for commissioner questions or comments. Any Commissioner McComb, you can start.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Grimes. Basic question in terms of the process. I would assume that before action is taken with respect to the transfer, some kind of preliminary due diligence is done to make sure the applicant has not had issues in the past with the license. I assume that was done here.
Yes, so I did have a conversation with a representative from the PA Liquor Control Board. They did share with us that the application is pending the approval of this board, to authorize the transfer into it. To the best of their knowledge, through their vetting process, nothing has come up that would inhibit or give pause to the transfer.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Any other Commissioner Churchill, go ahead.
Thank you. I have two questions. One, last time a liquor license came before us, I think we were told that we have 3 times as many liquor license as the population would, represent. Is that true?
There are a substantial number, having 41 alone restaurant liquor licenses. So there is a higher concentration. And, the way the Liquor Control Board operates is that municipalities are allowed to have, a set number without having to, go through the transfer approval process. We well exceed our limited number of liquor licenses. I'll attribute it to our vibrant, downtown, establishments. But, we do have a higher volume than, many other municipalities.
And I would also recall several years ago, Commissioner Bernheim saying something like, how many is too many? Am I stepping on your words, Mr. Bernheim?
That sounds good. Go for it.
Sounds good. I don't have any objection per se, because I don't drink. But at some point, I think that we're going to have to develop a policy or something on liquor license. I guess we're hard-working, hard-drinking people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Churchill. You didn't mean anything personal to anyone up here, I assume. Any other commissioners with Commissioner Stevenson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This establishment is in the 4th Ward, and what I'm about to say is not so much about this establishment, it's about this whole process, and it's not about Lower Merion. It's the state of Pennsylvania. This liquor license law is so antiquated, and my kind words are simplistic. This goes back to Prohibition era, and it's more about a monopoly. And we continue to go through these processes, and I would hope that we would encourage our legislators who deal with this, that they would have the foresight and the strength to change these to make them more update and comprehensive for our community. That was not an advocation for liquor laws, but that was an advocation for the process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Stevenson. Any other commissioners? I see none. I just, have one comment just to respond to other comments about the licenses. I recall that when we've discussed licenses recently before the board, it's usually a supermarket that is looking to move a license in. So whereas we do have more licenses, and I'm looking at you, you can disagree if you'd like, it's fair to say that the majority of licenses we've seen recently are supermarkets. It's not that there are more eating and drinking establishments like restaurants or brew pubs coming into the township.
I would concur, Commissioner.
Okay.
As more supermarkets, tend to expand their, their beer and wine section,
Right.
you'll see a lot more of these licenses, forthcoming, so.
Okay, well, thank you. Anyone else on this? Okay, seeing nothing further, I am going to move to recommend to the Board of Commissioners adoption of a resolution authorizing the transfer of a liquor license to Señoritas Mexican Taqueria LLC at 61 West Lancaster Avenue, Ardmore, from a location outside the township. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner McKeon. We'll call the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand signifying aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Any abstentions? Seeing none. Passes unanimously. Thank you. The next matter is the escrow funds, the release of escrow. Before I read this extended motion, do any commissioners want to individually consider any of these escrows? Seeing none, I am going to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to release funds held in escrow as improvement guarantees in accordance with Section 135-7 of the Township Code for the following: 150 Monument Road escrow release number 5 for $142,652. 396 West Lancaster Avenue, Chase Bank escrow release number 6 for $11,000. 265 Fair Hill Road subdivision escrow release number 3 for $5,750. 104 Upland Terrace and 22 Bryn Mawr Avenue, lot line change escrow release number 1 for $6,000. 6 Old Gove Road subdivision escrow release number 5 for $31,060. And 515 to 519 South Woodbine Avenue subdivision escrow release number 3 for $87,904. Is there a second? Thank you, Vice President Gavin. Any commissioner questions, comments? Is there any public comment on this matter? Seeing none and no one online, okay. We'll call the vote. All those in favor, raise your hand signifying aye. Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none. Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. The next matter is the waiver of the Township Code, Section 111-42, regulating open containers for the Ardmore SpringFest event hosted by Mirror Image Event. This is on page 24 of the agendas, and Jillian, I don't know if you want to give us an overview of this?
I don't have anything specific to present. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, well, Commissioner questions, well, okay, we have it in the agenda is what it is, since we're not going to do that. Commissioner Churchill, why don't you go ahead?
Didn't we pass a couple of years ago, didn't need a waiver from the board for this, that it was up to township staff?
No, no, this requires, that was for the libraries, yes. This requires board action.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Okay, and any other commissioner questions, comments? Is there any public comment on this matter? Okay, seeing none, I will recommend to the Board of Commissioners, thank you, by the way. I will recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of a waiver of Township Code 111-4.2 as requested by the applicant, Mirror Image Events, to permit patrons to possess open containers with alcoholic beverages and to serve alcoholic beverages in public rights-of-way within a regulated area in a portion of Cricket Avenue South parking lot on April 20, 2024, between the hours of 12 noon and 6 p.m. and a rain date of April 27, 2024, subject to Mirror Image Events providing the required insurance certificate documenting adequate coverage as required by the township. Is there a second? Thank you, Vice President Gavin. Anything further? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, raise your hand signifying aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, any abstentions? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. Next matter is number 4 on page 29 of the revised agendas. This is, concerns a second stage plan for 71 Sandra Court in Bryn Mawr. Chris, how fortuitous you're up there. I was about to call on you.
I can take you right through it. About 2 years ago, the Board of Commissioners approved a 6-lot subdivision near the intersection of Spring Mill Road and Mount Pleasant. This is the last house to be built in that subdivision. There's a requirement with that subdivision plan approval that for second stage plan approval, and second stage plan approval is the process of reviewing the siting of a house. And what we do is we look at, staff looks at that to ensure that the house is properly located in relationship to natural features such as steep slopes and trees and such. We've reviewed the house. It doesn't impact any of the natural features. There are no other issues with this, and staff recommends approval. On Monday's Planning Commission, I just want to bring to your attention that the Planning Commission did add a condition encouraging the applicant to look at connecting the pool, the area near the pool, to the stormwater system, just in case the pool ever has to be drained, to make sure that the water doesn't flow into the preservation area which surrounds this property. I will point out that the preservation area is elevated. The house is somewhat in a bowl here, so it's unlikely that that water would get into the preservation area, but it's still a good idea to make that connection. It was a good observation by the Planning Commission.
So, Chris, if I may, is that recommendation of the Planning Commission incorporated in the...
It is. It's new condition number 13. It's underlined under stormwater and sanitary sewer.
Okay, I'm sorry, which number was it?
13. Number
13. I see, it's underlined, too. Thank you. And was that okay, the applicant was okay with it?
The applicant thought it was a good idea, too.
You don't have to come up quite yet, but yes, thank you. Okay. Why don't, before I go to Commissioner questions or comments, having just told you it's not time, if the applicant would like to come up and say something briefly, you're certainly welcome to. If you could just identify yourself first.
Good evening, Board. Mark Weiss, President of Design Home Studios, Weiss & Associates, representing the applicant for second stage approval. We've reviewed the conditions and the added condition and find them all acceptable. And we're here, our architect and civil engineer are here to answer any questions you may have. And we ask for your approval tonight.
Okay, so thank you. So what we're going to do, we'll go down and see if commissioners have questions or comments, and just don't go too far in case anyone has one for you. Commissioner questions or comments? Any commissioners? Commissioner Churchill, please.
My question is about stormwater management. I assume that a 25-year storm drainage is on this project?
Correct.
Okay. It wasn't clear here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Churchill. Anyone else? Seeing none. Is there any public comment on this matter? I see. Did you have anything else you wanted to say during public comment? You don't have to.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. You're off the hook now for the rest of it.
You're ahead.
Seeing no public comment, and there's none, no one online with public comment. Okay. We will then have a motion. I will recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of a second stage plan for 71 Sandra Court in Bryn Mawr. Plan shows construction of a new single-family dwelling with 5,092 square foot footprint, attached 3-car garage, in-ground pool, and a spa. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner McComb. Anything further from anyone? Okay, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand signifying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Okay. As I said earlier, we're skipping Simpson Road, so we are moving on to page 41, the approvals of the certificates of appropriateness. Before we start, are there any commissioners who would like to have any of these 4 items considered individually? I see nobody. So I am going to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the following certificates of appropriateness as recommended by the Historical Architecture Review Board at their meeting held on December 5, 2023. 27 West Lancaster Avenue, Ardmore Commercial Historic District, 23-14. Approval to amend a previous approval to replace a slate and asphalt shingle roof with new asphalt shingle roofing with the existing open valleys in the face of the gutter to be recreated in bronze-colored aluminum, with the existing copper ridge caps to be removed and reused in locations most visible from the road, with a subcommittee to review these locations, citing Secretary of the Interior Standard 9. 901 Youngsford Road, Gladwin Historic District, 23-15. Approval to construct a new detached garage with doors facing Marion Square Road, citing Secretary of the Interior Standards 9 and 10. 61 Haverford Station Road, Haverford Station Historic District, 23-17. Approval to demolish a single-bay garage fronting on Montgomery Avenue, with the applicant to provide additional photographs of the existing building, citing Secretary of the Interior Standard 10. And 24 West Lancaster Avenue, Ardmore Commercial Historic District, 23-18. Approval to replace wood window trim with the composite material on the front and rear elevations, with a subcommittee to review a revised trim at a reduced scale, citing Secretary of the Interior Standard 9. Is there a second? Thank you, Vice President Gavrin, my go-to person tonight. Okay, any commissioner questions, comments on any of these? I have just one comment. Greg, I certainly have no reason not to trust the HARB's recommendations on any of these. But just to state, we had, and it may be before you were with Township, sometimes expressed, there was a one commissioner in particular who used to express concerns that we didn't have good renderings of some of these changes, which I found is, I think you know, on the Youngsford Road property, I didn't think that garage really showed us very much of what it was going to look like. So certainly I don't object to that application, but in the future, maybe if the applicants could be requested to give us something a little bit better as to what it's going to look like, that would be helpful. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, any public, we have one, any public comment of anyone here? Sure, Ms. Gillen, go ahead.
Thank you, Maura Gillen, Haverford. I'm here to speak about 61 Haverford Station Road. This is my neighborhood. I was not able to attend the HARB meeting yesterday. I hope that what I'm going to say might actually have been covered during that meeting, but the reference to Standard 10 jumps out at me and suggests that that advisory body may not have been paying attention. Standard 10 applies to new construction, and there is no new construction planned at this location. The replacement structure actually had been proposed, but they had to go through a zoning hearing board for that, because as you can see, this structure where it resides is right there in the setback. Don't ever get on Colonel Breyer's bad side. That was a really thankless process for the applicants, and it lasted, I believe, 4 months, resulting in a decision not to even bother, and then they went to staff. This really should have just been decided at the staff level, but one of the things that happened at the zoning hearing board was the application of the phrase demolition by neglect, which normally would be applied only to historic resources, but for some reason in Lower Merion has now been applied, and I think this was through a cleanup of the code. The solicitor determined that demolition by neglect should apply to all kinds of properties, including those that are not historic. This is not a historic resource. This is a structure that is on a parcel in a historic district, but it's not the primary structure, and it does not contribute to the historic character of the district. It's just a little garage. If it were a historic carriage house or something significant, we could see some protections, but this one really doesn't deserve those protections, and therefore really shouldn't even have gone before the HARB. At one point, when we were talking about design guidelines, we suggested there were certain things that could be decided at a staff level before going to the entire board, and this, I think, would have been one of them, but we took our design guidelines in a completely different directions. I guess that's water under the bridge, and ultimately this structure is coming down, and it needs to, because it's in disrepair. It should have been replaced, but My neighbors were not allowed to do that, and I feel for them because they should have been able to. And aside from the issues with the process, I would just ask the commissioners to pay attention to the experience of the residents in this community, because it feels like harassment. Just to try to repair and replace a garage is months of harassment. That's what it looks and sounds and feels like, and I ask that you to pay attention to the advisory boards and the experience of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? I see none. I will note, actually, no, the written comment refers to a different matter. So, the motion's been made and seconded. Unless any commissioner has anything further, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, raise your hand signifying aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Any abstentions? Seeing none. Motion carries. The next is on the Historical Commission applications on page 51 of the revised agendas. There is just one matter. I will start off with the motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners the following application recommended by the Historical Commission at their meeting held on November 27, 2023. 210 East Lancaster Avenue, Ardmore, Class 2, approval to remove a pent roof over the front facade of the former diner with a subcommittee to review screening of mechanical equipment citing Secretary of the Interior Standards 1, 5, 6, and 10. Is there a second? Commissioner Courtney, thank you very much. Okay. Is there anything you wanted to say about this application, or you're just wondering?
Not unless there are any questions. I think this is actually a very positive application that came before the Historical Commission. This historic diner building will be reused and used for new restaurant use, and everyone was very happy to hear it.
Yes. President Sinai.
Thank you, Commissioner Grimes. I just wasn't clear because it said the green roof of the front facade is being removed, and the 1952 picture has no green roof whatsoever. And I was just wondering, is that what it's going to look like? When you say over the front facade, is it the entire green roof, or is it just the, or is the green roof not actually over the entire roof? It's just like the leading edge, and that's what you're referring to?
Yes, so
Okay.
I'll just show some
It was hard
slides
to tell
really
from the
quick,
photos.
assuming this comes up. So the diner became a Chinese restaurant sometime in the 1980s or 1990s. At that time, this roof was added to the building in order to give it a look that complied better with the cuisine being served there. We found this photograph from 1983 showing the diner before that conversion. The current owners of the diner, the new owners, weren't aware that that roof had ever not been present. Once they saw this picture at our meeting, they decided to go back to this look. The roof is giving them all sorts of problems. There are all kinds of, there's cosmetic damage to it. There's also leakage into the building, and we suspect that this roof is actually hiding a multitude of sins, and once they remove it, they'll be able to repair things much better. So this is
But so just to
definitely
be
a
clear,
win-win.
so when you say removing the roof over the front facade, you mean removing all the green roof?
All of the green
Okay.
roof, yes.
Thank you. That was my question. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Commissioner Graham.
Sure. Any other commissioner questions, comments? Vice President Gabbard.
Thank you. So Greg, can you pull the picture back up? And I'm not sure it's relevant here, but one thing that struck me with this application is, that green roof is obviously a focal point and, a point of interest. The question I have is, if you have a historic building with like a historic feature that changes at some point, and then you have a new feature that ends up becoming a historic feature, where do we go with the code? Is it, returning to the initial feature, or is it the new feature that has become a historic feature? Like, what do we do there?
Well, it's a good point. There is a standard, Secretary of the Interior standard, that states that changes over time to a historic building could become historic in their own right. This is a case where many historic diners like this all over the country changed uses, became Chinese restaurants, and that really preserved them in many cases, and I think this could be one of those cases. So the roof, in a way, is a relic of that period when the diner was saved by that reuse. However, the applicant actually came to the Historical Commission initially to remove the green, the fake kind of tile look of the roof, and to apply asphalt shingles onto the pent in place of that green material. Like I said, they're having a lot of trouble with that material on the exterior. The Commission suggested that instead of applying a new material to that, why not just remove the entire pent, take it back to that original appearance? And the applicant thankfully loved the idea.
But if we, and again, I'm fully on board with it in this case. If we had said, hey, that's a defining feature, that's an important piece, because we've had other roof issues in the past.
Sure.
And I know this roof gives problems. Would we potentially make them replace it with a like-kind green roof? If we felt, and again, if we felt that this was a historic had become a historic feature.
Well, yeah, someone would have to determine if that material is available anymore. There are a lot of factors that would have to be considered, and this is a case, thankfully, where that isn't considered a historic feature. It's probably 30, maybe 35 years old.
Yeah.
And so that's the outcome.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for indulging me.
Sure. So, any other commissioner questions, comments? Seeing none. Is there any public comment on this matter? Seeing none, no one online, I assume. Now, this one, we did receive written comment from Michael Pollack approving, expressing his support of this application. So I will call the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand signifying aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Any abstentions? Seeing none. Motion carries. Next is on page 55. This is an authorization to execute an agreement with Human Good East and nonprofit housing developer regarding affordable housing expansion of Ardmore House. Mr. Ford is already up here, so I'll give you an opportunity to make some comments.
Absolutely. Hello again, Commissioners. Long time no see. I have two related items regarding the proposed expansion of Ardmore House, with the proposed project being a 48-unit detached construction for affordable housing. The first item for the board's consideration today is to enter into an agreement with Human Good East, a local nonprofit affordable housing developer, not on its own accord, but as representative of a to-be-formed single-purpose entity which would be created for the purpose of this project. And this agreement would lease township property located at 55 Ardmore Avenue, which is adjacent to the existing Ardmore House, to this yet-to-be-formed entity, and to allow this entity to serve as the project manager for the construction of what we are affectionately calling Ardmore House 2, which again would be the construction of a 48-unit affordable housing structure adjacent to the existing Ardmore House. Now, this is the second time that this agreement is before you. Staff did bring it up for discussion in October, and I do want to highlight a few minor changes between the version you see before you now versus the version that you saw in October. Nothing substantial. One was to a wording change where instead of the word owner, it refers to the entity as the option E, because they would be the optionee who would be leasing, not owning the property, as well as establishing a date of December 31st, 2026 as the option deadline, requiring due diligence materials to the entity upon request, rather than having it mandated every 3 months. And then also changing the renewal of the lease. Originally it was 45 years, now it's 10-year periods with automatic renewals unless the township or the optionee, which would be this entity, provides written notice in accordance to the timeframe included in the agreement. So, if authorized, this agreement would be for 10 years and then automatically renew every 10 years unless either the township or the optionee provides written comments saying that they are not going to renew. The site control to this entity is an important factor in our overall scheme of submitting an application to the state for federal, for state housing credits. So the entity would need to control the land before they submit their application to the state for the tax credits in this coming January. I do have representatives of both Human Good East as well as Genesis Housing who are our partners in this project, should you have any questions for them as well.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner, questions, comments? Commissioner Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to again thank staff. Particularly want to acknowledge Mr. Doyle, who has worked with our ad hoc committee for a long time on working on different phases of understanding the complexity of trying to find affordable housing. And I would like to also thank the rest of staff and our manager and assistant manager who have joined in and helped push this work that we've supported. Also wanted to acknowledge the representatives from Genesis, Ms. Bernberg and Ms. Anderson from Human Good East. Both of these organizations have a long history of working around providing strong affordable housing initiatives. Both of them are local folks who understand the complexities of a township like ours and the diversity within on the economic and other areas. And I'm proud that I'm a member of this board that has from inception pushed this forward. So I hope this is a continual effort that we will do for years to come, and I want to thank the board and everyone in the community for all this support. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Thank you. Any other commissioner questions, comments? Do you want to make a motion?
I'll second.
Fine. Is there any public comment on this matter?
Thank you, Mawr, Gill, and Haverford. And thank you, Commissioner Stevenson, and all the members of the ad hoc committee for the efforts to bring more affordable stock into our community. I am an incredible advocate for diversity and allowing places for people who work here to actually live here as well. I'm concerned with some of the process that has been used, though. The recent change to our code creating the low-income multifamily housing was pushed through, I thought, way too quickly. I understand the desire and the urgency related to this particular project, but I think changes to our code deserve greater attention to detail than what they're currently getting. I was quite disappointed last week at the Board of Commissioners meeting when you didn't even acknowledge that there was comments from the Montgomery County Planning Commission, much less did you address any of them, and I think one of them related to nonprofit selections. I'm in the odd position tonight of looking forward to a cleanup of that portion of the code, because I think there are cleanups that need to be made. I generally hate the cleanups because I think they're used to push things through that people want to hide. I don't think that this should be a case of getting something done and not caring about how you got it done. I think you need to pay attention to the details as you're moving forward, and please dig into those things. I have the greatest respect for staff, and I'm thrilled that Mr. Ford is now involved in this project, but this needs more attention. We want for it to be enduring. We want to have affordable housing in this community, which means we need to do it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman. Any other public comment? Seeing none, No one online still? Okay. I would note that Michael Pollack also wrote in support of this matter on our agenda. So, with that, to put a motion on the table, I will move to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval authorizing execution of an agreement with Human Good East and a nonprofit housing developer, not on its own account but solely as agent for a yet-to-be-formed special purpose entity, to lease from the township real property located at 55 Ardmore Avenue, Ardmore, and serve as project manager for the construction of a 48-unit detached senior affordable housing expansion to the Ardmore House. Commissioner Stevenson is seconding. Anything further from anyone? Seeing nothing, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, raise your hand signifying aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Any abstentions? Seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner O'Neill, was that a no or abstention?
She was opposed.
Oh, that's no, an opposition vote.
Okay.
Okay, so one opposed. Okay, Commissioner O'Neill, are you okay with this on the consent calendar?
Next week.
I'm sorry, what is she?
No.
Oh, she's not? Okay, that's fine. Thank you. The next item on our agenda concerns an approval to issue Ardmore House expansion letter support and financial commitment. This is on page 71 of the agendas. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, me again. So this is the second half, or the second part of the interrelated items for your consideration tonight regarding the expansion to the Ardmore House. This, as I explained before, part of the financing revolving this project includes application to the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, the PHFA. And our partners at Human Good East and Genesis Housing will be preparing an application to that agency through that special purpose entity that I referenced, to obtain tax credits. This project has a current estimated budget of a little over $24.6 million. Working with our partners, we believe that we can acquire over $14 million in tax credits, plus a few additional $1 million between debt and other soft funds that our partners, not the township, our partners would be able to acquire. As part of the application process to the state, we need to show a balanced budget for the project. Currently, the township has $3 million that we received from Montgomery County as part of the county's American Rescue Act allocation, but that still leaves us with a $4.5 million deficit. Last week, the board did consider an amendment to their capital plan to factor in a portion of the $4.5 million into their budget, especially in year 2025 and 2026. But what this letter that is before you would do is it would commit $7.5 million that represents the $4.5 million deficit gap, as well as the $3 million that we will be receiving from the county for this project. And if I can also add, we do ask that a change be made to the letter that was provided to the board. Currently, the letter does say that we would commit $7.5 million, but in consultation with our partners and staff, we believe that we can work on the numbers and to reduce that budget gap further, either through refining and sharpening our pencils or identifying additional funding sources. So that we are asking that if the board so chooses to make a motion to approve the letter that would be included in the application to the State Housing Finance Agency, that the words "up to" be added to Section 3, which identifies the $7.5 million commitment from the township. So we would add the words "up to $7.5 million," so that it gives the township greater flexibility should we be able to sharpen our pencils and reduce the overall budget estimate, as well as commitment from the township through identifying additional funding sources.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner questions, comments? I see none. If anyone would like to make a motion, or I do it. Commissioner Kramer, thank you very much.
I move that we consider for recommendation to the Board of Commissioners approval to issue a letter of support and financial commitment of up to $7.5 million for the construction of a low-income multifamily senior housing development consisting of a 48-unit detached expansion to the existing 63-unit Ardmore House facility.
Thank you. Commissioner Churchill, I assume that's a second?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Anything further from any commissioners? Seeing none. Is there any public comment on this matter? Seeing none, no one online. I will note that Michael Pollack also wrote in favor of approval of this agenda item. That being said, unless there's anything further, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand signifying aye. Any abstentions? Any opposed? I'm sorry. I see one opposition. Any abstentions?
Can you afford it?
Okay, the motion carries, and we will not put this on consent unless, okay, right, so this will not be on consent. So President Sinai, yeah, she's back. President Sinai, that concludes the business of building and planning.
Okay, and everyone, that concludes the business of the Lower Merion Township Board of Commissioners for this evening. Have a good evening, everyone.